Today we are talking about maximizing your group's potential, and this is hosted by Student Involvement and Leadership, which is an office within Student Affairs here at Duke University. My name is Lamar Walker. I am the Associate Director here working with student organizations. So you all probably get a lot of emails from me. I'm sorry, and or I hope that they're informational. With that said, let's go ahead and dive into today's presentation. Like I said, we're talking about maximizing your group's potential today. The purpose of this session is to help you understand where your group is in its development cycle and to identify some signs that your group is or is not working together cohesively. And then we also want to provide you strategies for helping your group achieve its goals. Who we are, or who, excuse me, who you are probably a new-ish leader in your organization. Maybe you've been in your role for a little bit of time. Maybe you just started. Maybe you're someone that's interested in helping your group or your organization accomplish its goals. You could be a member. You could be somebody that's supporting. I see there are a couple of advisors here. I know we got a wide variety of folks here. You might be a group member that just wants to help your group work well together, and you're here representing that. So really quickly, I'm going to throw a poll up. You should see it pop up on your screen. If you could just fill that in and answer the question. You should have two questions there. I think you're going to get both. I didn't really want you to get both, but it is what it is. If you can go ahead and fill those in, we're gonna talk about that here in just a second. So you should see two questions on your screen. While you're filling that in, I'm going to go to the next slide. It does not contain information that you need to screenshot or anything. I'm just going to keep talking while you're filling in that poll. So who we are and who I am, kind of said this at the beginning. I represent Student Involvement and Leadership, and we're an office dedicated to helping students and student groups help create their Duke experience. Our team is filled with educators that have backgrounds in student development and group dynamics. We are all trained to do this and all trained to help college students be at their best and maximize their collegiate experience. And we are very passionate about the work that we do. Sometimes that can come off as really overzealous, but I promise you, we're really here to help you in the end, and we are very excited to do so. Going to keep going here. Let's really just dive straight into content. And so as we're thinking about maximizing your group's potential, you have to know your team and know who's a part of your team in order to grow your potential. And so one of the things that we have found is that groups operate at their best when they have an understanding of one another. So getting to know the people that are in your organization, what makes them tick. And this isn't just limited to people kind of in your executive officer roles. General members need to get to know each other too, and they need to understand why you joined the group and what's important to you, why you're in the room, why you're a part of the team, because that'll help you grow your potential and help you really capitalize on the things that you can accomplish together as a team. Second thing, having a shared vision and common goals will increase the odds that you'll accomplish them. And so people may join groups for different reasons, but there's some shared commonality that you all have. And finding that shared vision and finding those common goals will help you get toward actually accomplishing them, because people come with different skill sets. They come with different experiences that are going to really help you get toward that common goal. And then third, bring your entire selves to the table. Like I said, everyone comes with different backgrounds, different experiences, and those things will help supplement you in the times that you don't have everything that you need. So if I'm the president of an organization, I may be really good at a lot of things, but I'm not great at everything. So let's say I'm really great at public speaking, I'm good at leading a team, but maybe I'm not great with numbers. Well, that's probably why I'm the president and not the treasurer, and that the treasurer's experiences can really help take us to the next step or really maximize our potential. There may be somebody in the group that has experience working with doing grant proposals, for example, and this is really just a broad example, but maybe that person that has experience writing grants could help really get our group out there to help us fundraise, whereas I might not have that experience. So one of the things we offer to groups and really encourage groups to do is make sure that you're bringing your entire selves to the table, to the proverbial table, or bringing your entire self to the group, because your experiences, you might think that they're insignificant or not necessarily something that will contribute to your group. I promise you, it absolutely can. It's just a matter of getting those things out there and sharing those with others, and you may find that you have a lot of things in common with other folks. Let's kind of talk about some group dynamics. There are different stages that you might be at for your group. And so as you're listening to me talk today, if you have questions or comments, or you want to give an example, feel free to throw it in the chat and we'll get your information or your message read out to the folks. So like I said, there are people that are going to be at different, or groups are going to be at different stages. And so as I'm talking, you may think, oh, this doesn't really relate to my group, or we've been there, but we're not there anymore. That is completely normal and may make a lot of sense. And there are going to be some later stages that you think, we're not there yet, or that doesn't really resonate with me. And I promise you, I'm going to give you a couple of strategies to help you get to these different stages along this continuum. So we're going to kind of start at the beginning. And if you're familiar with Tuckman's kind of model of group development, that is exactly what this is based on. And I'll give you that resource at the end of the presentation. So thinking about starting something new, when you have a new team, it's important to, one, get to know each other. You have to spend that time getting to know each other. And you might think, what is a new team, Lamar? A new team isn't necessarily just a new organization. It can be one of the ways that we think about new teams is at the beginning of a school year, or once you've elected a new slate of leaders, that's a completely new team because the roles that they're in, when you have new members, that's a completely new team. And so you've added new members to your organization. And so that's going to change the dynamic of the folks that you have in the room. So one, it's important to get to know each other, get to know each other's hobbies, get to know each other, what makes you tick, what inspires you. And if you feel comfortable, maybe what kind of scares you a little bit, but I know that putting your fears out there and being vulnerable isn't one of the things you want to do right away when getting to know a new team. So that we don't always encourage that, but if you feel comfortable, go for it. One of the things that we also encourage people to do is to understand your responsibilities, what your responsibilities are to yourself, what your responsibilities are to each other, and what your responsibilities are to the group. And that's at any level. That's from a general member all the way up to your executive team, because once everyone understands what their responsibilities are, it helps level set and give everybody expectations. And so if you know the expectations, it makes it a lot easier to be able to fulfill those expectations. And you can't really hold people accountable or really have something that you want them to do if they don't know what's expected of them. So being able to understand what your responsibilities are key to getting a group started. When your group is kind of getting started, when you're new, typically the people are going to be a little bit more polite. They're going to be a little bit more reserved. They may not give you all of their unfiltered thoughts. And that's completely normal. As people become more comfortable with one another, that's when you start to get a little bit more of those in-depth opinions and thoughts and things. Many new groups will highly rely on an existing or a previous leader. And so typically your general members, when you have people that are new to the team, they're going to look to the president or the vice president or the person that's at the front of the room that's leading the group to really kind of dictate or shape the direction of the group, which is their role, and that makes sense. You may have, if you have somebody that's new in leadership, folks may also tend to look to the previous leader, and that's also okay. Your group is just getting started, and so those people are going to be able to give some direction. One of the things we encourage new leaders to do is to really step in and take control of the group in a positive way and really encourage group participation as you're kind of setting goals. And so we have a couple of strategies to help you maximize your time when you're in that new kind of stage and you're just getting to know each other. First, set some goals and some objectives for your team. And those can be both short-term and long-term. That can be, hey, for this week, we want to be able to spend time getting to know one other person that you haven't met before. Cool, that's a goal. And it's an easy and achievable one. But when your team has something that they're working together toward, it creates a sense of unity, a sense of shared belonging, a sense of shared understanding that everybody's working toward the same thing. And that helps your group form a little bit more of a closer bond. It helps you be a little bit more tight knit. I asked the question in the poll about icebreakers. We had a pretty mixed response on doing icebreakers. I know that people hate them. Of the people that responded, let's see, only 4% said 10 out of 10 would do an icebreaker. That's not surprising. We had about 44% said if I have to, I will, but then we had about 29%. So 27 of you said hate, double hate. Do not make me do an icebreaker. I absolutely abhor them. That's, I'll share the results that you all can see it, see the kind of who's in the room, and then also how people feel about icebreakers. So you can see that there. I will say icebreakers are generally going to be a good way to help people get to know each other, and they don't have to be super cheesy. I would say go beyond the like name, hometown, fun fact. if you can do something else, maybe a fun question or something like that, that can be considered an icebreaker. But it's really just to get conversation started. Even if you go around the room and just ask people, "Hey, why are you in the room? Why'd you join the team? Why are you in the group?" I think that helps create some sense of buy-in, and it doesn't have to be painful. But icebreakers definitely are a good way to get your team, even if it's through some sort of some people consider icebreakers trauma, so you might consider icebreakers trauma bonding. But it's a good way to get people started. Have some team building moments. Again, working together toward a common task, even if it's not necessarily directly related to, the thing that you need to accomplish. Being in a group doesn't always have to be business oriented. You don't have to always be working towards some sort of high level objective. It can be just being social and just getting to know each other. A lot of organizations, a lot of clubs and groups have a social aspect to them and should. And so being able to have some sort of um, team building kind of training or onboarding is helpful there. And so then moving into that, talking about onboarding, if you can, if you're in a leadership role, being able to have some sort of onboarding or training or new member guide of like, what does it mean to be in this group? One of the things that we find when we're onboarding new employees or when we're bringing someone new into our organization, we literally have a handbook of acronyms that Duke uses. I don't know if you all find this, but there are sometimes there will be 3, 4, 5 letter acronyms. There are acronyms that turn into words. And it's just like, what is that? I'm not familiar with what that thing is. And so one of the things we like to do for new employees is give them this kind of great place to start with acronyms. And so that's something that you can do in an onboarding or a training. If you have language that is particular to your group, particular to your organization, that's a great time to share that, is during some sort of onboarding or training. It's also a great place to do icebreakers with your new members, or even with your new team. So those are a couple of strategies to help you maximize that kind of new organization, new to your group phase, if you are so inclined. So moving into our next phase. This is in the Tuckman's theory, the storming part. So typically, as your group continues to develop, there's going to be a little bit of a struggle for power. And I'm not talking like a coup and people trying to overthrow the person that's in charge, but I do mean, there are going to be some ideas that conflict. There are going to be some differences of opinion about which direction a group should go or what people should be doing. And that's okay. That's completely normal, as people kind of trying to figure out their place in a group and trying to figure out where they fit, and trying to make their ideas heard as they feel like they are a contributing member and want to be a contributing member. Like I said, it's a normal part of group dynamics, but you have to handle it with care and intention, because the storming phase of group development tends to be and can be make or break for a lot of groups. And so you really want to make sure that you are addressing things and giving people the opportunity to speak their mind, but also giving people the opportunity to be able to kind of dialogue and talk those things out. One of the things that we know from working with a lot of student organizations is that as people deviate from the mission or the vision of the group, or even those objectives that you set earlier, there's a lesser chance for success. And so then when you start to have people deviate from that, you start to have people fracture off. It creates a little bit of discord, which can grow into a lot of discord into your group. And so one of the things, if you are leading the group, or even if you're kind of a general member, is to be able to help keep people and remind people of the whole reason why you're getting together. If you are the Chocolate Milk Monday Club and you are determined that you're going to have chocolate milk on Mondays, well, why are we talking about Fridays? We need to stick to our Mondays because that is what the purpose of our group is. If we want to entertain adding another day, we can talk about that. But keeping to the mission of our group is really going to have us be successful as the Chocolate Milk Monday Club. So a couple of strategies to maximize if you are in this phase of group development. Encourage open communication and active listening. Open communication really means being able to treat each other with respect, but also being able to share your ideas, doing so clear, doing so thoughtfully, and being able to address things directly. One of the things that we say in our office is clear is kind. And so if you have to muddy your point or have to beat around the bush, it's not always going to be received as clearly, and there will be a chance for misunderstanding. So encouraging open communication, but then also active listening. Active listening doesn't mean listen to respond. It means being with the person that is speaking or that is sharing the idea and hearing them all the way through. One of the things that I found in my career and in research is that often the last thing that someone says is the most important thing. They'll say a lot of things as they're talking, but one of the last things that they say is typically the most important and often the most unheard, because someone listening that is not actively listening but listening to respond here's the first thing and they already have drafted a response in their head and a 3-point narrative of why that person is wrong or what they want to say instead, and they don't hear the last thing that the person said. So one of the things we encourage is indeed active listening. Second bullet point here, address conflict constructively and promptly. Doing so in a way that is not attacking the person, but rather the idea. And you really shouldn't be attacking anybody, but really thinking about the thing that someone said rather than them as a person. When people do not feel that their personhood is called into question, but rather their idea, they're a lot less likely to be defensive. Now, it is their idea, so they may still be a little bit defensive, but if you can focus on doing that, it goes a lot better. The other thing that we also encourage people to do is address conflict promptly. So in my office and on teams that I've been a part of in the past, we have what we call the 48-hour rule. Sometimes it's a 24-hour rule, but we do 48 on my team. And so if there's a conflict or there's something that somebody has an issue with, address it within 48 hours. Otherwise, it wasn't that important. And that may seem like a really harsh rule, but one of the things that we have found is that the further and further you get away from the actual conflict or the actual conversation or the thing that was said or the thing that was done, the more you can add to the narrative in your head of, oh, well, this person said this thing to me. And you know what? Now I feel really this way. And you start to twist their words or twist the thing that happened. You get a little further away and your memory's not as great. And then you get to talking with your friends or other people and you start adding other things to the narrative and it just gets really messy really fast. And the person that may have offended you or committed the offense may not have any idea that you're upset with them, or they may not remember the thing that happened. So it's best to address it as promptly as you possibly can. Another strategy that we kind of will give you to help you maximize while you're in this stage of group development is to clarify and to re-clarify roles, responsibilities, and expectations. As people start to deviate from the mission, deviate from the objectives that you've set, don't be afraid to kind of bring the group back and say, hey, I don't think that this is quite in line with the mission that we've set or the thing that we said we wanted to do. This is really not helping us get toward that charity fundraiser. We're working on something else here, and I just don't think that this is moving us in the right direction. Or, hey, person, you said you were going to be in charge of contacting these folks to get our fundraiser off the ground. And you haven't done that yet, or these were your responsibilities and somebody else is doing them. And so making sure that people fully understand what they're responsible for, but also what's expected of them. And if you're in a leadership position, you are uniquely equipped to be able to do this because people are looking to you for guidance and for structure. And so being able to clarify those things with people is always a good thing. And the kind of strategy that we give you here is being able to build a group being able to build a group culture of respect and inclusion. And that kind of goes back to some of these other points that I've talked about of open communication and active listening. One of the things I will always share in every single training that I ever facilitate is that people in life, not just in student groups, not in businesses, but just in life, are generally looking for 3 things. They want to be heard, they want to be understood, and they want to be validated. Or if you want to change that around, they want to be listened to, they want to be understood, and they want to be validated in their experiences. And so that acronym is LOVE, L-U-V. I got to give credit to one of my counseling professors from many moons ago. That is not a Lamar original, but people want to be loved, listened to, understood, and validated. And so if you can build that into your culture within your group, people will feel respected. They will feel like they belong and feel included in the group. You should always seek to include rather than to exclude people that are a part of your team if you want them to remain on your team. And so as you move out of this storming phase, you will get into your norming phase because you've been able to have a little bit of conflict. You've been able to kind of build some norms. You've been able to kind of build some trust with one another. And so having a sense of normalcy is not overrated, especially not for student groups. Groups that make it through conflict are generally stronger because they know that the people that are in this with them care about the topic that they are working on, or the thing that they are working toward. If you have not already, establish some group norms. Now, you probably did this a little bit in the forming stage and you're kind of getting your new group started and setting expectations, but there may be some other norms that you need to kind of establish and write down. So one of the things for my office, for example, is when we're in staff meeting, the norm is kind of, hey, don't be on your computer, don't be on your phone, but that isn't always the case. And we know when it is appropriate and when it is not. Is it a hard and fast rule? No, but it is a norm, and we name it and we write it down so that people have that and know that expectation and know that when somebody is kind of on their phone or doing something else, yeah, you're probably going to get a sideways look, or somebody might say something to you because it's out of line with our norms. As you continue to work together and demonstrate reliability, you will develop trust. As you continue to go to meetings and be around people and they're, doing the things that they said they would do, you're typically going to build some trust and learn to be in this group with these people, and you'll build cohesion as you're going along. Is all of this foolproof? Is all this going to happen every single time? No. There will always be exceptions to the rule. There will always be kind of out of the ordinary experiences, but this is generally how we see things happen with group dynamics. So a couple of strategies as you're figuring out your norms and being in your group, and how you can maximize these things. Reinforce positive behaviors. When somebody does something good, tell them. And tell them, in front of other people. Some people may feel weird about public praise, so take that and do with it what you will, and make sure you ask people. But reinforcing positive behaviors and doing so in the group lets other people know, hey, this is something that we want to see. And the other thing I say is celebrate what you want to see more of. So if somebody's done something great, whether it's in the group or even if it's in your community, recognize that and highlight that so that people can see that you believe in the thing that somebody is doing. Third, provide some ongoing feedback. It is important to let people know how they're doing regularly and all throughout the year rather than just at the end. If I only tell somebody that they did a good job or a bad job, or I really hated that thing and they didn't know the entire time that I was working with them, they may not ever know how to continue operating. And then last thing for this kind of strategy here for creating some sense of normalcy, encourage shared leadership and decision making. So as much as you possibly can include your general members, include the folks that are a part of your different committees in the decision making. One of the things that is most important to group dynamics and to having a group be successful is buy-in. You're not always going to be able to have the group make every single decision together. You're not always going to be able to have people be able to just do every single thing. But if people feel like their voice is at least being heard, they're more likely to keep coming back. They're more likely to keep giving their opinion. They're more likely to keep showing up. And so if there are opportunities that you can give people to take the lead on something, whether it's something as simple as running a meeting or taking meeting minutes, or being able to, take the lead on, sending out marketing or running the Instagram or something like that, that gives people a sense of buy-in and makes them feel like they belong or are able to contribute to the organization. Just really quickly, I want to pause. I got a couple of comments in the chat for some folks that joined maybe just a few minutes late. You will check in at the end of the presentation. There will be a way, and I'll explain exactly how to check in so that you get credit for being here. I know everybody's here for credit. So we will get to that. I promise you didn't miss it. You're still on track. So moving, and so we've talked about forming, we've talked about storming, we have talked about norming. Let's talk about performing. When you have found your rhythm, now it's time to dance. So once your groove has been established, you got a good rhythm, it generally means there's a high level of trust. You know that the person to your left, to your right, that's in front of you, these people are going to do what they said they were going to do. You can count on them to carry out the mission of your group. That's how you know when you have that feeling and you have little kind of room to doubt or not trust those folks. That's how you know you're in a good spot. That's how you know you're in the performing stage, and it's really time to take it up a level. You probably have a solid sense of your group's identity, and most people probably do. And the morale is high. It's not always going to be high, but it's generally high when you're in the performing stage. And to put it quite simply, you get things done. Some strategies to kind of stay in this phase and to kind of really maximize being there. Challenge yourselves. You already trust each other, so let's see what you can really do. You don't have to keep things simple. You can kind of take it up a notch. You can give a little bit more delegated and shared responsibility, and you can improve upon your successes. If you had something that went really well, okay, do it again, but do it better. Or if there are ways that you feel like your group can really step outside the box, or maybe partner with somebody else, partner with another group, do it. Because you'll never know what your potential is and if you can actualize on that potential until you try. So now that you're in the performing stage and you've got that trust, you've got those norms, you've got those expectations, everyone understands their roles. You really can, like I said, you found your rhythm. Now it's time to dance. And the last thing that a good strategy to maximize here is find ways to hone individual growth. Find those folks that are in your group that, like I said, when you're bringing their whole self and they may have a talent for public speaking or for copywriting or for graphic design or something like that, find ways to really help them tap in to help them then also grow. Maybe you have somebody that is good at public speaking and somebody that's not so great at it or not very confident in it. Partner those people together and have, the person that's great at it share some tips, share some experience with the person that isn't great, because they already trust each other, they know each other, so they know that they can count on each other to be able to offer that feedback, that information, that mentorship. So find some ways to hone individual growth for people that are within your group. And then the last kind of stage is when your group is finally, you've got it all together. That is typically when it is time to say goodbye. You typically have folks either graduating, it is the end of the school year, your leadership is transitioning out. That's typically what happens. It happens for every single group. We call this the adjourning stage. And it is hard to say goodbye. And you know that you're at this kind of phase is when your group is meeting goals at every single turn. Like I said, it's probably the end of the school year. You might have some mixed feelings about things ending and what comes next. But that doesn't mean you did a bad job. That doesn't mean that it is a bad thing that the group is coming to a close, or that the school year or whatever, that your team has pretty much wrapped it up for the year. That's a good thing, and that is a normal part of group dynamics. So one of the things that you can do, a couple of strategies that you can do, debrief the time that your group has been together. Talk about your successes. Talk about the things that went well for you. Write down those challenges, write down those successes and those opportunities, and make sure that you pass them on to the next group of leaders. Pass those on to the next group of members so that people understand where you've come from, so they can understand where you're going. And then the last thing that I'll say is also establish some ways to stay in contact with each other. It is you went through a lot of cool things. You were able to build and do a lot of cool things together. And so it is important that you stay in contact with each other. You've got some shared experiences. They don't have to end just because the group kind of for that year or for that time has come to a close. You can kind of keep the good times going, if you will. So those are kind of some strategies that we talk about for maximizing this particular phase. So those are all 5. I promise you, we wouldn't be here the full time. So now you've been asking, you want to check in. Here's how you do it. First, just for some more information, I would encourage you to check out Bruce Tuckman's Stages of Team Development. You could also look up Kuzi's and Posner's The Leadership Challenge. And also, if you ever want to talk through group dynamics or anything else, schedule time to meet with my office, Student Involvement and Leadership. We are happy to do this. We do this, like I said, we have studied this for years, and it's all based in theory, and we put it into practice. And so we want to help your group be the best you possibly can.